You know that feeling when you find yourself nodding along with someone? Not because they've laid out this brilliant logical argument, but just because they sound so incredibly sure of themselves. It happens everywhere. In the boardroom with a super charismatic CEO, in your own group of friends, and yeah, in the most extreme cases, in cults. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the mechanics of influence and how the simple illusion of authority can be an incredibly powerful tool of control. So what is it about our brains that makes us so vulnerable? This quote, it just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? That feeling of a final answer is so seductive. Look, our brains are basically wired to be efficient, to find the quickest route. And when someone comes along with a simple, confident solution, we have this natural instinct to just grab onto it. It's a mental shortcut that saves us a ton of energy, but it's a shortcut that can be so easily exploited.
And this is the perfect picture of what's happening inside our heads. When someone projects that absolute certainty, it's like they found a secret password that just bypasses our critical thinking. Our brain doesn't bother to analyze the argument, it just takes the shortcut. It equates the feeling of confidence with actual competence. And just like that, we stop questioning and we start accepting.
That's the billion-dollar question, right? How does this natural tendency to trust the confident voice get twisted into a full-blown system of control? Let's dig in and break down exactly how it's done. Okay, first, we've got to understand the basic psychology. Why are we so susceptible to this kind of charismatic authority in the first place? Well, it turns out it's all about making things easy for our brains.
There's this psychologist, Robert Lifton, who put it perfectly. He said that these huge, all-encompassing belief systems, he called them totalist answers, can literally have an effect that stops time. The feeling of finally finding the ultimate answer is so powerful that it just shuts down our natural curiosity, what he called the original exploratory impulse. We just stop searching for answers ourselves and start accepting the ones being handed to us.
So, if our brain's need for certainty is the open door, how do controlling groups walk right through it? Well, a framework called the BITE model gives us a really clear map of their techniques.
And here it is, the BITE model. It was developed by Hassan, who's a leading expert on cults, and it's become this essential tool for understanding how this undue influence is applied step by step. And what's key here is that it's not about one single trick. It's a whole coordinated system of control that you can spot in a lot of places, not just cults.
Now, BITE is an acronym. It stands for behavior, information, thought, and emotional control. Think of these as the 4 pillars that, when you put them all together, can create this incredibly powerful system that completely rewires how a person sees reality. So let's take a look at how these 4 pillars actually work in the real world and turn these abstract ideas into very real, very concrete methods of manipulation. It always starts with the outside world. Behavior control is about dictating the little details of your life, what you eat, when you sleep, what you wear. Then information control builds a bubble around you. You know, think of a really toxic workplace where management only shares certain information to control the story, or tells you not to talk to people who've left the company. It creates this us versus them world where the group becomes your only source of truth. Okay, so once the external environment is managed, the focus turns inward. And this is the most insidious part, changing not just what you do, but how you think. It's almost like they're trying to install new software directly into your brain. This is done through these techniques designed to short-circuit your critical thinking. The group starts using loaded jargon, you know, kind of like those corporate buzzwords that don't really mean anything but stop you from asking real questions. And pretty soon, any negative thought or doubt you have is framed as your personal failure, so you start to suppress dissent before it can even form. And this right here illustrates the final pillar perfectly: emotional control. It works just like a roller coaster. When you're new, you're showered with praise and affection. It's a process called love bombing. In a company, this could be the boss who tells you you're a rock star, only to later use harsh criticism and the threat of their disapproval to keep you in line. This crazy cycle makes you completely dependent on the leader for your entire sense of self-worth. Now, you might be thinking all these complicated social dynamics are, well, uniquely human. But here's where this story takes a really fascinating turn. What if I told you these exact same patterns of influence and identity can emerge completely on their own in artificial intelligence? Yeah, you heard that right. This isn't just a bug in our human software. Some recent research put large language models into these really complex social simulations, and what they found suggests these might be fundamental rules for any complex social system, human or not.
This is the absolutely mind-bending conclusion from a study by a team of researchers. They found that AI agents, even when they were given preset roles and hierarchies, they didn't just blindly follow their programming. No, through talking to each other, they actively tore down the old structures and built brand new ones.
So let me just break down what this study found, because it is wild. The AI agents started to form their own opinions, totally separate from their initial instructions. They created their own tribes based on how they talk to each other, not on the labels they were given. This means authority and identity weren't fixed. They were built on the fly through social interaction. This wasn't programmed, it just emerged, even in AI.
Okay, so understanding how these mechanisms of control work is the crucial first step. The next, and most important step, is learning how to defend against them, how to reclaim our own cognitive autonomy.
The antidote to this kind of manipulation isn't some secret formula. It's really just a conscious process of waking up our critical thinking. You know, the very part of the brain that the whole illusion of certainty is designed to put to sleep in the first place.
And as neuroscientist Dr. Kathleen Taylor explains, the solution is actually pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. It's all about creating the mental space to just pause, to question, and to analyze. These stop and think techniques are like a workout for your prefrontal cortex, and they keep your judgment sharp.
So here's a simple toolkit you can use. First, always question absolute certainty. Anytime you hear an unwavering, 100% confident claim, just ask yourself, how could they possibly know that for sure? Second, actively seek out different perspectives. Break out of the information bubble. And finally, trust your gut. That little nagging feeling that something isn't quite right, that's not a weakness. That's your brain's alarm system, and it's telling you to pay closer attention.
Because ultimately, it all comes down to this one single question. Understanding these tactics gives us the power to make a conscious choice about who or what we allow to shape our thoughts and our beliefs.
You know, so much of the foundational work for this explainer, especially the bite model, comes from experts who have dedicated their lives to this field. If you want to learn more and go deeper, the Freedom of Mind Resource Center is a really excellent place to start.
Thanks for digging into this with us. Stay curious and keep questioning.